منسق الشؤون الإنسانية في اليمن ديفيد غريسلي، بداية هل يمكن أن تضعنا في إطار الوضع الإنساني في اليمن كونكم كمنظمة أممية على تماس مع الناس هناك وتعملون؟ ما هو الوضع الإنساني؟
Well, the situation remains quite serious from a humanitarian perspective. We still have over 20 million people in need. We have uh, several million children needing support for malnutrition, both severe and acute. We have 13 million people that we're currently feeding with food assistance, medical support. The hospitals at the government level are overwhelmed by patients coming in from the rural areas because there's no health facilities in the rural areas. So across the board, food, water, shelter, 4.5 million IDPs, it remains quite serious. But we're doing everything we can to deliver to the most those who are most in need, the most vulnerable, and we're working very hard to get the targeting right so that we reach those people wherever they may be, regardless of the challenges that we face. One of the key challenges we do face is a very tight financial situation. We only have about 31% of the total requirements we need for the 20 million people I spoke of earlier. We're on the verge of reducing the number of beneficiaries receiving food assistance. The World Food Program just notified both the authorities as well as the general public of its shortfall in funding for this current year. So we're very concerned that we won't be able to continue the levels we had in the past. One last thing I'll say on this is last year we succeeded in reducing the number of people in need of financial assistance, or food assistance, I should say, by about 2 million people. But that particular gain is now at risk if we do not maintain the funding stream coming in to Yemen. So I'm quite concerned about that.
نعم، هناك الكثير من الصراعات والاشتباكات المسلحة. كيف تؤثر تلك الاشتباكات المسلحة أو الحروب في اليمن على الوضع الإنساني؟ كيف ينعكس على سوء الوضع الإنساني في اليمن سيد غريسلي؟
Well, the conflict is extremely important. There were, before the war started, humanitarian needs in certain parts of the country where there was structural food insecurity, but at a much lower level than what we see today. Essentially, what the 8 years of war has done is broken down the economy. So those people, whether they were middle class, professionals, but also farmers, fishermen, and other ways of making a living, they lost their income. There are fishing communities that can't fish anymore because of sea mites. Those who are employed in urban areas don't have jobs because the companies shut down. And so it has a very decisive effect on the number of people who are in need of assistance. It's why we see the 21 million people requiring assistance. The other factor, of course, is the displacement of people. 4.5 million people being displaced. That's 15% of the total population. That's a very big burden also for the families that are hosting them, if there are families that can host them. And where there is not, then people live in very, very difficult circumstances, very basic, crude structures, limited food assistance, limited access to schools and jobs. So it has really just torn the country apart. And the only way forward is to find a way to peace and have that peace help reestablish the economy so people have jobs and income again, and then they will be no longer dependent on all of this assistance coming from outside.
سيد غريسلي، في فبراير العام 2022 تم اختطاف 5 موظفين من الأمم المتحدة، ومؤخرا تم إطلاق سراح هؤلاء. سؤالي، كيف تم إطلاق سراح هؤلاء الموظفين؟ وهل دفعت الأمم المتحدة فدية أو أموالا لقاء إطلاق سراح هؤلاء العاملين أم لا؟
Well, to answer your last question, I want to be very clear. The United Nations does not pay a ransom. And there's a very good reason that we don't pay ransom. Because if you start to pay ransom, you end up having more people taken hostage. So we totally avoid that, and we avoided paying it in this case. It's one reason why it took so many months, 18 months, to secure the release, because you had to convince the hostage takers that they were not going to get a ransom. So that takes a lot of time. But I want to also take the opportunity to thank the many parties that assisted us in the discussions. I'm not going to go into the details for obvious reasons. It's quite sensitive, but I'm very thankful for those countries that did assist us in these delicate negotiations. We're very pleased for the outcome that we've had. I can say that the UAE was one of those countries that was actively working with us on this, and so I want to express my appreciation to them. But there are others as well who I don't want to name at this point in time, but I want to thank them. They know who they are. I want to thank them as well. So we're very pleased that they're home. They're back with their families. We're helping them reintegrate into their families and their communities. It's a very joyful time for us, but one that reminds us of the very difficult situation in which we work, the kind of care that we need to take in order to continue to deliver. But we are committed to continue to deliver throughout Yemen, regardless of the challenge, including security challenges.
نعم سيد غريسلي، سؤال آخر يعني في المستقبل ما هي الخطوات التي تقوم بها الأمم المتحدة لتجنب عمليات خطف مماثلة؟ ماذا تفعلون؟
Well, I think it's very important that we continue to work on the kind of training that we provide to our staff, and including those who are doing the driving, on how to avoid these situations. Also, it's very important to have good situational awareness to know the environment in which you're working and traveling, so that you can see the signs where there might be a threat that we need to avoid. And that really requires a good engagement with local communities to make sure that they understand that we're coming to assist them and that we count on their support too to help keep us informed of potential threats so that we can continue to serve their communities. So there's a lot of work, and we will draw a number of lessons from this particular incident and others as we improve our ability to keep our staff secure, but secure enough also to deliver the assistance that so many people in Yemen need.